friends. Today I had the chance to sit down with one of my best friends from a long time ago. We spent a lot of time together during our youth doing all the crazy things that popped up in our heads. There's a bunch of funny stories during the first half of the episode, and then we transitioned into some heavy stuff for the second part. All of this really got me thinking. Life is so short, and you only get so much time to hang out with all of those that you love. You know, I have 3 beautiful little babies, and I tell them as often as I can, we all make mistakes, and that's okay. A mistake is not a bad thing if you learn from it and change yourself. Everyone has their baggage, and most of us push it onto some sort of addiction to get us through. But that light at the end of the tunnel comes when we humble ourselves and admit defeat. We can't do it alone. And there's no shame in reaching out to those around us, as they can offer us love, forgiveness, and support. We're all just humans trying to get through this thing and figure it out. With all that in mind, I want to say thank you to my friend for coming on today and sharing his amazing story of recovery and redemption. I love this guy, and I'm so grateful to know him. Here he is, Shane Ervin. Shane Ervin. Dude, I haven't seen you at least 8 years, maybe 10.
Yeah. I think like 2011, man.
Yeah. I mean, you were down here for a while, and then you headed back to the dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah? And you're still there, right?
I'm still there, man.
Yeah?
Yeah. Living the dream, dude.
And how are you liking it?
You know, the dirty depths of the Dalles is a pretty good place to live when you're grown up.
Yeah.
I remember being a little kid thinking, I can't wait to get out of this place, but now I love it, so.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because like when we were kids, it didn't seem like we had that much to do. There wasn't there are no amusement parks. We had the skate park, but beyond that, you could go hang out in the river. It didn't seem like there was a ton for us to do, and just like you said, I just wanted to get out the whole time. But it seems like a cool place for older people, once you get established and you're not worried about being in school anymore.
Once you have toys to play with.
Yeah.
We have everything. We have the mountain, we have the river, we have all kinds of stuff that you just take for granted when you're young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
You think you're going to stay there for a while?
I do. All my family's out there. My brother lives out in the sticks, out towards Doofer. My dad's out Mount Hood Street, and then of course my daughter, she's pretty well established in the Dalles, and we're all close.
Mm-hmm.
We're all Oregonians, so I think moving away is not even in the cards right now.
Well, yeah, and tell me about what you do. You're working on windmills.
I am. I'm a wind turbine technician.
And so do you actually build them, or you just go and fix them when they're broken?
We're strictly maintenance operation. So we maintain them. We go through the maintenance cycles, and then we repair them when they break down.
Yeah.
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 We're cowboys out there, man. The crazy thing is, I'm close with all of them. Mm-hmm. Some genuine gentlemen out there, man, and we get the job done. But we have a good time with it. It's not. It's a really good gig. They treat us well.
Yeah, and it pays pretty well too. Yeah.
Yeah. We're the pay scale climbs over time, but they started me out at like 26,
mm-hmm.
which was pretty good. I was used to like $20 an hour jobs, and they put me up to like 30. I make 30 now, and then
mm-hmm.
we get percentage matched in the 401k.
Mm-hmm.
So when everything's said and done, they match 6%, and then they give us an additional 5.5%. So we're pulling in, about 17% 401k, 100% benefits paid for the family.
That's cool.
So vacation 6 weeks a year.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah, with an option to buy as well. So you can buy up to a week, and you just pay into it every paycheck.
You can buy more time off.
What
can you buy 6 months off?
Just 1 week.
Just 1 week.
1 week's the max.
But 6 weeks starting, or that built up over time?
That's starting. However, that includes some holidays that they took away,
mm-hmm.
and it includes sick time. So it's kind of incorporated in that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't get sick, you got a kick-ass vacation every year. You know what I mean? So we've been doing. I joined a group of dudes that we all ride motorcycles,
Mm-hmm.
and so once a year we take a trip. Last year we went to Glacier Park in Montana, and then the year before that we went to Reno. And next month we'll be going to the Redwoods and staying in the Redwoods for a couple days.
Nice.
So
you're talking about street bikes?
Motorcycles.
Yeah.
Harley Davidson, baby.
You have a Harley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started on a Sportster. Just it's pretty much a girl bike.
Yeah.
But and then I went to like a Deluxe, which is pretty much like a bull dyke bike.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm on I got a little Dyna lowrider that's
Nice.
more my style.
Nice.
But
yeah, when I was texting with you, asking you if you wanted to come down, and you're like, oh, blah blah blah, ride my bike. I hadn't seen you in so long. I didn't know if you're like super into like riding bicycles on the mountain.
that DUI 11 years ago fucked me up, man. Now I'm on bicycles. No, I ride a bicycle too. Yeah. Just around town, man. I got a little beach cruiser.
Nice.
And there was a period of time where I was riding that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just now in the Dalles they have a cement path all the way from the Dalles Bridge pretty much, and then all the way to the Discovery Center. So you got 9 miles of riverfront. You know, and you can just.
Yeah, dude, they have done. I don't go there that often anymore because my parents moved, but they have done a ton of work out there, and most of it's because of Google, right?
I don't know if that's where the beef of the money came from, but I know they played a part. But they also played a part of people coming into the Dalles. So before it was like ghost town, dude. Like all the storefronts in the downtown, the Dalles were vacant, and I think Google brought a lot of people in, which kind of raised the market in house value. But the cost of a house is crazy now.
Yeah.
You're talking like $300,000 for a fixer upper. So there's the good and the bad, because cost of living is higher. But I mean, I've been at the same place for like 10 years now, and I'm still locked into that low rent rate that I paid back then. Yeah. So some people are paying $900 for a studio. I pay $540 for a 2-bedroom.
That's cool.
Which is pretty unheard of, man. So.
Yeah, I was talking to Ervin, I believe, and he was saying that it's practically impossible to buy a house because he said as soon as something comes on the market, there's like all these real estate companies that come in and just buy them because they can turn them and sell them to somebody from Google or someone else.
Absolutely, man. It's insane.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people that are in Portland even potentially are buying there and commuting, or even Hood River. Because, dude, Hood River's pretty brutal, too.
Well, it's actually toned down quite a bit. Yeah. More people have come to the Dalles, towards the Dalles. So it's not the yippity uppity town that it used to be. Yeah. Because it always used to be a battle. Yeah. Like the rich kids in Hood River against the little West Side shitheads in the Dalles, man. It was always one of those things, but now I don't think it's so much. But then again, it's probably one of those things you grow up, you know what I mean? And things are probably the same, but they're just different, you know, in our perspectives.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is how many breweries they have, or just like boutique, like the Clock Tower, Oh yeah. Dude, that would have never made it when we were kids.
Well, it might have, but that was the kind of stuff that we needed, man, to kind of bring like a little bit of youth into a retirement town, because that's what we grew up in, a retirement town. Yeah. I mean, there was, every 5 blocks you got a retirement home somewhere, but you got to bring that kind of that younger lifestyle kind of thing in, because we got a couple joints like that, but it's nothing like hanging on Alberta Street or Mississippi Ave, Yeah. But it's something for people to do.
Well, it's different though too, because it's still maybe like 15,000 people, and I mean, you could go from one side of town to the other in 10 minutes. Sure. And so, dude, traffic sucks in Portland, man.
Yeah, but you get to the Dalles and everything's 25 miles an hour. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yes, I always wanted to live in the city growing up.
Yeah.
I always, like, I just, a kid mesmerized at the tall buildings and whatnot. And then I came and lived here and I realized how congested it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, I fucking hate this, you know, and I love small town, you know, especially in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, my heart goes out to the people that live in shoeboxes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so yeah, it's definitely it's a beautiful place to live, man. I'm definitely comfortable there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've been building credit, trying to get enough to get some kind of loan. I've been approved like 200,000, but you know, like we were saying, you can't buy anything like that. It's just it's incredibly tough.
Yeah, that's the issue I'm running into down here because I'm trying to get out of this place and go buy a house, and everything that I want to buy, you know, just like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, it's just like slightly out of my range. And it's for houses that shouldn't cost that much money.
Yeah.
You know, we bought our house over here in Gresham in 2012 for 187, and that house is worth 370 now.
It's about the same.
It doubled, dude.
Yeah.
In 8 years.
I think my mother, you remember the house up on 19th Street?
Oh yeah.
I think my dad and her purchased that for like 160,000.
Uh-huh.
Maybe 180, but when she sold it way back when, she made a huge profit, but now that's like, it's probably worth, you know, close to 350,000.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts. But
do you ever go buy that house?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Does it look the same?
They did a little bit of tweaks here and there. They took about all the grass out and put bark down, and but for the most part, it looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All the houses look the same on that block, just like your old neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, my parents sold that house 3 or 4 years ago, and apparently the people who bought it have done some things to it, ripped out a bunch of trees and changed a few things around. But dude, I always get that feeling like I just want to roll up one day and be like, hey, I used to live here. You mind if I just like walk around for a little bit?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Come on in, buddy.
Yeah, man, that town, it was a cool place. And I have so many fond memories of all the stuff that we did. And I look back on some of the things and I'm just like, man, it's almost like it obviously was me. I obviously did it, but it's almost like I disassociate from it. Like it was a different version of me that I can kind of relate to in some ways, but in other ways, like I was a completely different person back then. And I've tried to hold on to like the good portions of it, but that's the weird thing about growing up is hopefully you change and you become a better person. And, you know, as you experience new things, you kind of take them and try to do different things with it. I have this thing where I kind of pay attention to my age probably more than I should. And I've been thinking a lot lately about banks of 18 years, like that first 18 years from when you're born to when you finish high school. Like that's a significant portion of your life. And what you do in that time period dictates like what happens later. And now, dude, we're 36. And so we've lived that second 18 years, if you can look at it that way. And so it's almost like we're going into the third chapter of that time period, you know?
You remind me that I'm 36, dude.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And I was kind of thinking of, you know, some of the things we did growing up. You had a good upbringing, you know what I mean? I did as well. I had loving parents,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that we had the middle class, you know, white privileged family,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And your side was a little bit stricter,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? But they did a damn good job, you know. And I remember we were like freshmen in high school, and two of the hottest girls, the seniors, asked us to prom. We're like, dude, we were on top of the world, boy. How could you not be? And then your parents put the kibosh. They're like, you're not going.
Yeah.
And I was like, man. But it was probably better. You know, they probably saved our virginity for a year or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, dude, I know what you're talking about. That jump from 8th grade to high school, and you just get smacked in the face with all the perceptions of what you thought it was going to be, and then you start living it. And dude, there's something weird about being a freshman and going in there. You're kind of like a kid. You felt like you were super old and had everything figured out, and then you go into this new environment and you're looking at people that are only a couple years older than you, and you're just like, oh fuck, those guys are so cool, man. They got facial hair, you know?
Yeah, they hit the pube. They hit the pube.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And it's true, man. You know, you go into a new world, essentially vulnerable. You know what I mean? And you want to be cool, and all you hear is we're gonna be hazed like Dazed and Confused and be pushing a penny down the hallway with our nose, you know, and getting hit with the paddle, and we get there and it's nothing like that. You know what I mean? It's but high school was a fun gig for me. You know,
same here.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people complain about it and say they want out and they don't want to do it. And I'm like, man, that was like some of the best years of my life. Like,
absolutely.
When you don't have to have a job, when you don't have to be responsible for other humans, you're just fucking taking it day at a time and going for it, man.
And then you look back and you're like, dude, it was torture. You know, no matter what the situation, it was torture because we didn't have the freedom that we have now. You know, we couldn't jump in a car and drive. You remember getting in a car wreck up on Kelly?
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah.
So my interpretation, I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this.
Maybe not.
So that night we were hanging out at I think it was Kessel's house, wasn't it?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think we were going to meet a couple girls. You were seeing one of them and I was seeing the other.
As far as I remember, we were at a party at this house, and there were a bunch of people there, and we were hanging out, and somebody gave me Vicodin, and I can't remember if it was one or two, but I popped them, and then we were drinking, and you were dating her, and there were two other girls that were with her. They're her friends, and I can't remember if you guys got in a fight or what happened, but something happened where it was decided that they needed to go home.
I think it was because you were loaded behind the wheel.
Well, somehow something happened and they had to go home. And so you asked me to drive. And dude, I didn't think twice about it. I was like, whatever. So we got in my car and we drove them way to the other side of town, dropped them off. And then when we were coming back, there's that street, Kelly, right?
Kelly, yeah.
Kelly Avenue. And when you go up that street, there's an automatic left turn. Like you can't, you're just supposed to follow the path. And dude, I think it's a 25 and I was doing probably like 40, 45. And as I went to take that left, I didn't quite make it and slammed right into that curb and pulled over. And this is how I remember it. You're yelling at me. You're like, dude, we got to keep going. We got to keep, no, other way around. You're yelling at me, pull over, dude. We got to get out of the car. And I was like, no, dude, we got to get the fuck out of here. And you're saying, no, dude, look at your fucking car, man. It's not going to drive. And we get out and look at it. And the tire is like up inside the wheel well. I hit that curb so hard.
Just bent the axle.
Oh, dude, it completely fucked it up.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get out of there because I knew I was going to get in trouble, go to jail or whatever. And in the process of you and I yelling at each other, someone called the cops on us because they thought we were fighting. And so we get out of the car and we're just kind of standing there. And then the cops show up. You did the smart thing and fucking booked it and ran and jumped over some fences and hid in some backyards or whatever. And I just sat there and I didn't have to admit that it was my car. I could have just lied my way out of it, but I didn't. And then, I ended up going to jail and getting a DUI that night.
Damn. As a youngster, 16.
Dude, no, we were 18.
Oh, we were 18.
We were 18. We were seniors.
Well, my take on the story was I mean, you're right on the money, but when we wrecked, you mentioned that you had a marijuana pipe in the glove box.
Okay.
And the cops show up. And they surround us, dude.
You were still there when the cops came?
I was still there when the cops came, and I grabbed your pipe from from the glove box.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, dude, like back then it was like a piece of glass this big, dude. You know, big old honking steamroller or whatever.
Yeah.
And the cops start to chase, man, and I jump a wood fence, and they're on me, dude, and I'm running, and there's this huge pine tree that had branches low to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember jumping under it and army crawling to the other side, and I get up and I come back out on the street, and I'm running past you guys, the cops. There's a cop facing away, and then there's your car, and then there's other cops surrounding you,
Mm-hmm.
and I dart across the street, and the cop slammed it in reverse and tried to hit me, and he missed, and I ducked down the street and then cut through an alley, and I'm booking, dude, and I can hear him behind me.
You still have the pipe?
Yeah, big old bulging glass pipe in my pocket, and I jumped this ledge, and I remember like an old school refrigerator, like with the handle and the old school. And I jumped this ledge and jumped over this fridge and land, and I just keep running. I landed like a fucking athlete, dude.
Like Tom Cruise or something.
Dude. And I got away.
Yeah.
You know, I ducked out and hid under somebody's porch, and then went around that time we were hanging at Lucas's house a lot and partying and whatnot, and I ended up there. And then a few days later, the cops come knocking on my door, and they're like, hey, were you with so-and-so, yada, yada, and I denied it until I was blue in the face, and they still got me with the MIP. They ended up giving me an MIP, even though they didn't have proof. I probably could have fought that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, well, that's a thing that I don't know if I ever admitted to you, and I don't know if I can admit it because I don't remember what I said. But there was a lot of discussion over whether or not I told them that you were the guy that ran away. And I may have done that. I honestly don't remember.
Dude, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter now, but
yeah, right. And I'm pretty sure you did, but it doesn't matter, man. I was thinking that too, because I think I mentioned in the beginning of this the whole DUI. The last time I saw you, man, I was living here, and we all got loaded at the bar, and Farger's little punk ass had me drive him home over here in Gresham, and just like an idiot, man, I get pulled over and refuse to do a blow test, and they throw me in the slammer, and that was my first run-in with drinking and driving. Because nowadays it's like 10 grand easy.
Oh yeah.
After everything's said and done, and even when it happened to me back in 2011. But I remember going to court and trying my damnedest to convince Farger to like testify on my behalf, right? But he was subpoenaed anyway, so he had to show up. And I remember him telling me that he had talked to you, and you told him, dude, just be honest. You know what I mean? And to me, I felt like, well, fuck, dude, don't be honest, man. You're gonna get me pinched, bro. So he goes up on the stand, and
he actually went?
Yeah, he showed up, and goofy as ever. Nervous, you could tell. And
Did he have a nice shirt on?
Me?
No, did he?
I don't remember. Probably not. Maybe like a button up, little hand me down.
Yeah.
But he told the truth. He said, and actually he probably sugarcoated a little bit. But he's like, yeah, we shared a picture, but I was loaded, dude. I deserved that thing, dude.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have been on the road. But looking back on it now, my entire life, I've been a liar, cheat, and a thief. You know what I mean? And so looking back on it, that's absolutely the best thing that he could have done for himself. You know what I mean? He could have gotten in trouble for perjury if he would have lied, and they could have proved it some other way. So God bless him for telling the truth, man. But this is my liar, cheat, and thief. So they put us on a recess, right? And in court, the judge puts us on recess, and beforehand they were talking about, the prosecutor was talking about some of my, like, basically the whole ordeal, right? And they said I had like the stigma in my eye, so when they were doing the test, it was jogging back and forth. And then they said the key word that I was flushed, like red, like flushed, like a sign of being drunk. And so they put us on this recess, and I'm like, dude, this huge light bulb goes off in my head. I'm gonna run to the health store. I'm gonna get niacin. I'm gonna pop a bunch of niacin and walk back into this courtroom.
Yeah.
And I did, and I looked like a fucking lobster, dude. And I went from a normal skin tone to a lobster, and just hoping that they're like, dude, this guy normally turns red.
Yeah.
And no, it didn't. It didn't work. They hit me with the. This was even worse, you know. At the time that they were deciding what my penalty would be, they bring in a high school class to come in and observe like what happens in court. And so the judge is like, I'm sure was like, oh dude, we're gonna teach this kid a lesson.
We need to prove a point.
You know what I mean? And they hit me with 6 days in Multnomah County, a shit ton of fines. I had to use a breathalyzer for a year, SR-22, the whole nine, you know.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was going to college for renewable energy technology. So I was on like the last leg of getting an associate's in renewable energy, and I was gonna start a job in wind, and at that time they weren't like if you had a DUI on your record, you're not getting in because you got to drive company truck, you got to be they got to insure you,
yeah,
like,
for sure,
you're a liability or whatnot, and so I my hopes and dreams, dude, all that hard work was like I felt like it was flushed away for my own actions, right? And but it turned out to be exactly what I needed to be for my life, you know. You know, it hasn't been mentioned on here, but you know, I had issues with drugs and alcohol, you know, and you all know we grew up, and some people kind of grow out of it and mature and can handle the thing. I didn't, you know, I was an addict through and through by the time, you know, 2014. That's when I got sober, 2014, and you know, lo and behold, a couple of years later, I ended up getting a job in wind. I've been rodeoing ever since. So it's turned out to be a blessing, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That ordeal was a blessing for me too, because I mean, not that I haven't made any mistakes since then, but when that happened, I believe it was in April of 2002. So we were seniors. We were just a few months away from graduating. I wrecked that car, went to jail for DUI. I had to call my dad, ask my dad to bail me out. And I was supposed to work at the gas station the next day. I was supposed to be there at 6 a.m. or 6:30 or whatever. And I didn't show up on time. I was like 2 hours late. And I come in, and the guy that was there, he was super pissed. He's like, I had to do everything all by myself all morning. Where you been? And I was like, hey, dude, I was in jail last night for DUI. And then he kind of shut up after that. But that started this set of dominoes where... you know, I moved out for a little while, and dude, I put my parents through some things, you know, especially my mom. Those few years in high school, man, gave her a number of nervous breakdowns from all the shit that I did. And that situation, you know, I was lucky because, one, I didn't kill myself. I didn't kill you. We just crashed into a curb. So it could have been way worse.
Yeah.
It was more financial than anything. And because of, I don't know if it was because of my age or because of the arrangement within the law at that point, but I could take diversion, and I took diversion, and I think I only paid like $1,000. And then I just went to a class for 3 months and had to take piss tests and pass them. And if I did, then I think it got wiped. I don't think it was on my record after that. So that was a cool thing that they offered that arrangement. But like you said, dude, that moment changed everything. And if it wouldn't have went down that way, dude, we could have been in my car a month later, and I could have fucking killed somebody. So that drinking and driving stuff, dude, it's you don't really like appreciate how negatively it can go. You know,
but you don't think about it when you're on the sauce.
No,
you know what I mean.
No,
it's like fuck yeah, I can drive. You know, and yeah. There's a lot of bad things that can happen with it, man, for sure. You know, we've been fortunate. When I got my 240SX, that little Nissan my dad got me for my 18th birthday, I I had who was I with? I was with Chris Berger.
Mm-hmm.
Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Shad Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't mention names, but anyways, we had a little crew and we were taking a back road on Olney, and kind of like you taking the corner too fast. I was going around the corner at like 70 and flipped the car. We flipped the car, and I remember this music. This at the time I was into like SPM, like Mexican rappers, and I remember, dude, vividly. We were all in the cars. Nobody had seatbelts, and the car came up and over, and as we're going down, I'm seeing sparks flying off of the front fender.
Wow.
And as we go down, I'm hearing this song, and it's singing "Lifetime Thugs, Do or Die Killer," and it's just right. And I'm, and no time to react or anything, man. Yeah. And we ended up upside down in a ditch, and nobody was hurt except for me. I was the only one that got an injury, and we had all crawled out of that car. But there's no doubt in my mind that something was looking after my ass, man, because my friends should have been dead.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, and it was drugs and alcohol that were the
dude. And I don't know if you recover from that, man. Like if I was in a situation like that and I was driving and I killed somebody, especially if it was my friend and I lived, dude, I don't know if you'd ever recover from that, man.
Yeah, it'd be pretty post-traumatic, dude.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
But
like the guy that we know that was coming down Brewery Grade in the Volkswagen Bug. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. I see him.
Yeah.
He's doing good.
Well, that's cool.
But he went through that.
Dude, yeah, I can't imagine, man.
Yeah. It's a tragedy, man. It really is. But
yeah. I mean, but that's what it was growing up there. I mean, obviously we could have been like doing 4-H and playing video games and not getting on the sauce and smoking a bunch of weed and shit, but in that town at that time is kind of just the option, right?
It was. If they told us you could smoke duct tape and get high, I was smoking duct tape and getting high. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it didn't matter what it was. I was a garbage can. I was a garbage disposal. I would put anything in my body just to feel different. You know what I mean?
Okay, so is that what it was? You just wanted to be different?
I think I kind of adopted an attitude of like I'm willing to try anything once.
Yeah.
And
that was me too, man. Which
kind of opened up the gateway to hell. You know what I mean? Like you try something and then you come to like it, and then you're doing that all the time. So that's kind of I don't know what put me there to be that way. Mm-hmm. But it's what happened. And so yeah, I surrounded myself with friends that just had it. And it was, whatever we could get our hands on. We were drinking fucking Sudafed, robo frying and sniffing Ritalin and dude, all this dumb stuff. Dude.
I thought about that one the other day. Do you remember when we went to the fucking Rite Aid next to the movie store, and we went in there and we bought 2 bottles of cough syrup, and you and I go through the checkout and we're paying for it, and the girl looks at us and she's like, "You guys aren't going to drink this, are you?" And we're like, no way. And we fucking drank a bottle each and went back to some like basketball game. Yeah. And dude, I was staying at one of my parents' friends' house. My parents were on vacation or something, and she was responsible for me. And I got fucked up, dude, off that Sudafed or whatever it was. And dude, we didn't have cell phones. She had no way of getting a hold of me, and just thought, where's this kid that I'm supposed to be taking care of? And I ended up coming home like 2 hours late or something. And dude, she could have killed me. She was so mad. And dude,
I don't blame her.
I didn't know you could drink a bottle of cough syrup and get fucked up like that until you and I did it, man.
And we got fucked up, dude. There's no doubt about that.
I don't think they make cough syrup the same way anymore.
No, they caught on to it. I think it was one of those things. Like they're, it was such a sensation. We didn't have Facebook and all this other shit, and it blew up. Like the word got around, around the nation or the world for all intents and purposes. And that's how like easily it spread informationally to us. You know, we're like, okay, you can get high off it, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really saying something if, you know, you don't have the social media.
Yeah.
To kind of give people dumb ideas.
Yeah, dude, I don't even know how we found out about that.
Probably word of mouth. You know what I mean? Somebody got sick and drank too much and fried balls and realized that they were onto something. You know, you just talking about that reminded me of and you know, God bless your parents if they're watching this. They're probably like, oh my dude. But my brother had these inhalers for his asthma because he had it really bad. Mm-hmm. We were in junior high. We were 7.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
And so back then, you know, we got scammed and scrammed all the time because we wouldn't get the good shit. Like they would sell us the Mexican red hair that had seeds in it, and you'd get a headache from smoking it. But we got this bag of flatbud that's probably been smuggling a mule's ass at some point. And you know, I make this makeshift inhaler out of plastic, mind you.
Yeah.
Plastic that would melt at a
and I never questioned it.
Neither. And so here we are in the alley, you know, trying to get high off of a plastic inhaler. It was just insane, dude. Like,
well, yeah, dude, because we didn't have a screen to go in it. And you brought the inhaler one day and you told me about it. And dude, we were like 7th or 8th grade. And that was, I think, one of the first times I ever smoked weed. And you're like, oh, it's okay, man. I'll figure it out. We'll get a screen. We'll do something. And you cut a chunk of screen out of the screen door at your parents' house. Dude. And fucking brought that in. I don't remember if it even worked or not.
I don't think so because it wasn't metal. Yeah. It was like kind of like the rubber coated. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of metal on the inside after we smoked the plastic.
Dude.
But my mom finally figured it out years later. She's like, I was wondering what the hell happened to my screen, dude. So for years, there's a perfectly good screen door with a chunk of little square cut out on it. Oh, God, man. It's nuts.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, I didn't meet you until junior high. And that was the coolest thing about hanging out with you is you were fucking down for anything. Not just with me, but with anybody. Like, you would hang out and you would have a good time and fucking who cares what happens. Let's just try it. And I don't know, maybe that's why I was drawn to you because I kind of felt the same way. Like I was trying to experience something. And so, yeah, when we started hanging out 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that was like some formative years. And that was when I started trying things and just gave me the opportunity to experience things that anything that popped in my mind. I was like, hey, Ervin, let's fucking try this. And dude, yeah, we'd go do it.
Yeah. It was good times, man. What a way to live.
Dude, it was good times. And I don't regret any of it. I'm glad I didn't die. I'm glad we didn't kill anybody. But the thing about life, in my opinion, is like you shouldn't be so scared that you never do anything. And maybe you shouldn't do a bunch of drugs. Maybe you shouldn't get hooked on heroin or rob a grocery store with a gun. Like, you got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, but you got to find your rush in a safe way.
But, dude, I think that's what it was for you and me. Is like we were kids, man. We wanted to try it. We wanted to see dude, we can go to Rite Aid and buy a bottle of cough syrup. Let's see what happens.
You know, I have a story. And for years, you know, my feelings were hurt. And this is going back to junior high. And I didn't really realize it until maybe a few years ago. It even crossed my mind. But we were in a band. You know,
I was thinking about this just before you came over.
So we were in a band, right? And you and Cody Farger and I don't know if Ian Dimick was in it.
It was just you and Farger and I.
Okay. And so your parents were kind enough to allow us to do this little music gig in your bedroom, and I didn't realize this until years later of how funny it is. But at the time, like we were jamming, and I'd get on that microphone and I was singing like, you know, at the time it was like butt metal was the new thing, man, and it was screaming and all that jazz, and I'd get on the microphone and, you know, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall.
Yeah, dude.
Humpty Dumpty smoked an 8-ball. You know, and thinking on it now, it was your parents were probably upstairs thinking, what in the hell is this kid saying?
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to let Cody hang out with him anymore. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a few days later, maybe a week, you guys took Ian as your singer. And I was so butthurt. I was like, those guys ousted me. And thinking on it now, it was probably your folks saying, dude, you can't hang out with this kid. He's over the top.
No,
you know?
it wasn't like that at all. Ian and I would play together, and we'd try to write songs and stuff. And that was with me playing drums. But when you would come up, I was playing guitar, and Fargo would play drums. And yeah, you were singing.
Yeah.
But dude, I have a VHS tape of one of those sessions that we had. You can't really hear anything. It's basically just all drums. And dude, we went somewhere. It must have been down to the cliff and smoked a bowl. And then we came back. And because I didn't want it to show any of us while we were playing, I just like focused it on the wall. Yeah, it was black. And dude, I remember, man, we were fucking super blazed and just playing music for hours. And then my mom calls us to come upstairs and eat some dinner. And we go up there and she made like chicken nuggets and french fries or something. And dude, you just kept going back for those french fries. And she's got to be thinking, what is up with these kids, man?
God bless your mother, man. What a nice thing to do for
She's just trying to feed us.
Yeah, you know, and those are the kind of the things I look back on and think, man, what good people, man. I always had the feeling that your dad hated me. I think he was cut from a different cloth, like maybe a little militarish, but he was looking out for you, you know, and I think he was right on and not trusting me.
Dude, he had done all those things that we were doing.
Absolutely.
And so he knew.
You could read the writing on the wall.
Yeah, dude, he knew what was up. And dude, that's the thing about my youth is there's a lot of friends that we had whose parents hated me because they thought I was the bad influence. And dude, the truth is all of us were just doing whatever we wanted to. We were all bad influences
Absolutely.
On each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a situation where all these different parents were just trying to protect their kids, and they didn't understand that we were all in it together, man. You know, we were all doing the same stuff. Yeah,
it's funny, you know, it's crazy, but you know, their ideal was like, all right, our son's kind of messing up, we need to redirect. You know, and so they did exactly what a loving parent would do, man.
Yeah, they tried to, but I was so focused on doing the opposite of what I was supposed to. I didn't care, man. Yeah. And I would purposely go against whatever they said just to be like, fuck you. And we've had conversations about it, you know, many times over the last few years. And I tell them all the stuff that I did and everything. And the guilt that I have from putting them through all that shit for 4 or 5 years, man. It just makes you hope that your kids don't do that shit to you. Because, dude, we, I don't know, man. I can't imagine being your parent at that time period or being my parent at that time period or anybody that we hung out with. That must have been some shit, dude.
Yeah, I could imagine. You know, and in my household, you know, my parents divorced when I was 12. So I kind of used that to my advantage. I got away with a lot more stuff than you did or some of our friends, you know, because I wasn't monitored in the sense of I wasn't given a lot of direction. It was kind of like you can, you know, if I get in trouble with my mom, I'll bounce to my dad's, vice versa, you know, and just kind of play that whole card. And but, you know, fuck, man, you know, my parents had their own gig going. Yeah. They had their own life going. You know what I mean? And they loved me and they showed affection as they could, and which was appropriate or whatnot. And so they did their best, man. Yeah. And you know, I put my mom through a lot of shit. You know, but I think today, you know, the relationship is a lot different. You know what I mean? Like it's the love is more genuine on both sides. You know,
when they're not in control of what you can and cannot do, exactly. Everything changes.
Exactly. That's it. That's it for sure.
Yeah, dude, your parents were super cool, and they're always just looking out for you. You just like you were untamed wild stallion out in the field. Like, dude, nobody's getting on that fucking horse.
Well, I had a brother that was 3 years older. So, and he was in the party scene, you know, and all of his circle of friends, they were all into the crazy shit. And so that's kind of what I was, you know, molded into. I kind of grew up into that and fell right into place. You know what I mean? His friends were getting me high at 12 years old with the triple perk.
Yeah.
Bong, you know what I mean? And so that's that kind of fed into like what I turned out to be in the future, you know, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, and that was a cool connection for me because he knew about a lot of music, and then you would listen to it and then give it to me. Like, that's how I found out about NoFX.
Yeah.
Because your bro was listening to it, and then you were stealing his CDs, and we were all listening to it together.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, those connections are cool because you, once you reach that age, you're easy. You're better able to influence other people, whether or not you want to. And yeah,
whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, my ideology back then was fucking party, man.
Yeah.
You know? And you would think that somebody with that kind of attitude and outlook would be apt to, like, fuck things up, drop out of school, you know, do those kinds of things. But I was so addicted to school because of the socializing, you know, and I was friends with so many different circles and was able to just bounce around that. Like, I would never think about quitting school.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's where all the fun's at, you know? Yeah. And, but, you know, somehow I managed to graduate high school, you know, and eventually go to college, you know, and all that jazz. But it's just, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand the issue with graduating high school either. High school wasn't that hard.
No.
And it was
cakewalk.
It was cool, man. That's when you got to see everybody.
You show up and you pretty much pass.
Yeah.
I do remember I flunked what the hell was his name? He was a redhead. He was the biology teacher or science teacher. Mr. Eddie. No, not Mr. Eddie. So he was a different guy, but
the young guy?
No, he was older. Had red curly hair.
I don't remember.
We had those tables that had the plugins on each side, and I'm sitting in class one day, I think with like Sarah and James. Remember him? God, I love that kid. I haven't seen. Yeah, he was my sidekick.
He
back
was,
then.
dude.
I stuck my neck out for that kid, and I almost got killed by the gangbangers in the Dalles.
Serious?
You know, I don't know if you remember, but we were in PE, and you know, he was just a fragile kid, man. You know, he had kind of a shitty situation at home, single mom that kind of treated him like shit, and you know, controlled, and so he just latched onto me, man, and we became like real tight. And this kid went up and blatantly like slide tackled him to hurt him in PE, and I stuck up for him. I'm like, dude, don't go at him like that. Period. If you want to go to him like that, go to me like that.
Yeah. And
it set off something in that wannabe gangster's mind, and he was after me, man. And they stalked me, him and his little group of friends, for months. And
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you know, I was living in fear. I was like, dude, like these guys are gonna pummel my ass. And it finally came to a head in at a powder puff game that my brother and all his friends were on the sidelines, and Gabe come up to me with his girlfriend and was like, let's fight. And at this time I was so tired of running that I finally was just like, all right, we're gonna fight. And my brother and all his friends had my back. And so we, you know, them thinking they're all hard, they go across the street and it's like him and 5 others. And then I got the whole damn football team on my back. So you know I'm coming in ready to scrap. Yeah. And we just go at it, man. And for whatever reason, I laid him out with a hit to the nose, and it broke his nose. And just, it was pretty cool feeling, man. Like I finally was at this moment where I stuck up for myself and succeed. And it didn't end there. You know, they ended up stalking me for another week, and I went with our old hippie crew, the girls, you know, that we used to hang out with.
Yep.
and we smoked herb on lunch, and I go to math class high
dude.
as a kite, dude.
Yep.
And him and his gangbanger friends follow me in the classroom, and they come and try to jump me. And dude, it was like two rabid cats going after each other, bro. And somehow, some way, like I didn't come out, but with like a scratch on the side of my face, and I just fucked them up.
Dude, I remember that day. I was gonna bring that up because, so, for everybody listening, when we went to high school in the Dalles, the lunch was from 11:17 to 11:55, right?
Something like that.
It was such a weird number.
Yeah.
And dude, you could either eat in the cafeteria that was there, that we called the Chat and Spew, or you could go to Taco Bell or Wendy's or whatever. You only had 38 minutes or whatever that was. And that day, you and you probably had the weed, and you're like, hey, dude, let's go smoke on lunch. And I was like, sure, fuck it, let's go. And so we went and hung out with that hippie crew, and just went like down behind somebody's garage or something.
Down there by Nikki's house.
Yeah.
Yep.
And dude, that was the first time I got really fucking high. we took like, I don't even know, man, only like 3 or 4 hits. And we came back to school, and I'm like, dude, I can't cope. I felt like I was walking around in a fishbowl or something, dude. Everybody's all slow motion and everything. And so I say goodbye to you, and you went to, I think it was a math class.
Yeah.
And you got in the fight with him in the classroom, right?
Yep.
And there were like shirts that got ripped, and there was blood on something. And somebody came to me after it happened, and they're like, yeah, Ervin got in a fight again. Or Ervin got in a fight. And I was like, no, dude, that was last week. What are you talking about? They're like, no, dude, it just happened right now. And yeah, that was in the classroom.
It was nuts. He came in, and all of the desks were pushed back. The first row was pushed all the way back. We had come around those desks, and then I had them slammed up against the chalkboard, and then they had a little cubby. I don't know if you remember the little cubbies that there was nothing in them. It was just like a rectangle
Okay. Yeah.
whatever. And we end up in there, and I'm choking his ass out. And I'm like, tap out, and he finally does. And after that, the issue was resolved. I never got fucked with again, man.
That was it?
Yeah. But I went through a lot of fear, but man, if I didn't find out that I was a good ass fighter, dude, I had no idea. Getting picked on from my brothers for so many years, it kind of did something good for me, so
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, dude. Did he have that class with you, or he just followed you in there?
Followed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stalked me, and I
actually, he had a crew with him too?
And I think I was so high that I went early to set my books down so I could leave and like go to the bathroom and like look at my face and think, oh my God, we're probably bloodshot. But by that time, I had turned around after I put my books down, and boom, he's standing there with 5 of his friends.
Yeah.
And they were scary to me, man. They were all, the gangbanger kind of persona.
Well, I don't know if this is true for you or not, but like there were some last names in that town that had clout. Like older brothers could get involved.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And at that time, because I grew up my whole life, if anybody picked on me, I'd say, my brother's going to kick your ass. Like that was my line. And at this moment, I'm like, I had to fend for myself. I think it was a good thing.
He probably wasn't in school anymore at that point. I think that was like our sophomore year.
Yeah, that's right. He was gone.
Yeah.
And I was all alone, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of shit we got into. Mm-hmm. All because of James. He had the biggest crush on this girl, and he'd do anything, dude. He'd get her flowers, and he would just do anything to be a sweetheart, and try to get her attention. And she didn't want anything to do with it, And I remember we were in gym class, and we were doing laps around the gym, and Rachel had come up behind him, and he was running up to like jump to touch the bottom of the net.
Yeah,
she like mid-air drops his drawers. And the ding-a-ling is like sucked in and not presentable at all. And this poor kid, dude, oh my God. And that was pretty much the seal of the deal for him, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I miss that kid. He was a good kid, man.
Yeah, dude, because we used to hang out at that church, lock away and smoke cigarettes before class and during lunch and stuff. You remember when the cops used to roll through there and we'd have to hide them real quick because we didn't want to get MIPs for tobacco?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then I think that's where he started coming and hanging out. You kind of like initiated him and he was hanging out with us and we're like, all right, dude, you get the
welcome to the club, brother. Yeah. And then, you know, and I remember a time where we got busted in the alley behind Irby's house. And I had ditched a pack of cigarettes into like, they had like this trailer that they put shrub into or grass clippings or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I had ditched a pack in there and they didn't even search the trailer. All they had to do was look up and in, and I would have been busted, you know, or both of us. But I remember getting busted in the alley, and they're like, "Get out of here," you know. But
yeah, dude, we were up there smoking cigarettes every morning before school started and at lunch and stuff. And you know, we were all 15 to 17. It wasn't legal, and they knew that, and they wanted to roll through there and try to bust us. And if I remember correctly, Farger's girlfriend would go to Fred Meyer and just steal like 10 packs at a time. And so we kind of just lived off her. She would just give us cigarettes. So we're up there smoking all the time. And you remember Chester?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Chester. Okay, so Chester, he owned a cleaning company or worked for a cleaning company or something. And that company would clean Les Schwab. So my dad knew him. Okay. And then he became the hall monitor or something, right?
Exactly.
When we were like, I think it was when we were juniors. And he smoked cigarettes. And he wanted to make sure that I didn't go down that path and you didn't go down that path. And all of us, you know, wouldn't continue to get lung cancer and whatever. And so he made it a point of responsibility to somehow make sure that I stopped smoking. And that one day, we were going up to Irby's house because he had piranhas. And we were going to watch his piranhas eat some fish. You remember that?
Yeah.
Were you there for that?
Yeah.
And so, dude, we walk up. Irby's house is like a block from the high school. And we go to walk up there. And I think I was walking with Farger. I'm not sure. And there were two dudes standing on Irby's porch smoking cigarettes. And because Farger and I were on the sidewalk, which is public property, Chester called the cops, or maybe he was him. I can't remember. But either way, somebody rolled through right there and busted Farger and I got MIP for tobacco.
So I wasn't with you guys, but I've been up there to see the piranhas. But I kind of remember that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he made it a point to bust us for that. And it was so fucked up because there were two dudes, our friends, standing on the porch smoking cigarettes, and they didn't get in trouble. But because Farger and I were walking up the sidewalk, we got busted. I got an MIPT. I had to go to whatever the fuck it was called back then, detention, you know, for a couple days. And yeah, it was just like this ongoing thing where like, do something that disappoints my parents and get further in trouble. And it was because this guy just wanted to prove a point and try to get me to stop smoking. And
so he was doing you a favor, man.
He thought he was.
You know, and didn't he go to like a mental institution for like some kind of breakdown? Mentally?
Did he?
I think so. He ended up leaving. And that was the rumor.
Dude, I don't know, man. He was a cool guy, and I'd love to talk to him now. I mean, what would you do if you were? Can you imagine being a hall monitor at a high school where you know the kids because you know the parents? Like, I get it, man. Like, he was trying to help out, but it didn't.
It didn't help out.
It didn't help out, dude. It didn't quite go the direction he wanted it to.
Yeah, high school was a good time, man. Junior high was good too. Yeah, I think we moved us here in second grade, and I've been in the Dalles ever since, except for the 5 or 6 year stint
Where'd you live at before second grade?
My parents moved from Illinois to Ty Valley, so a little small podunk town.
Dude, I do not remember that.
And I went to Maupin Elementary until second grade, and then we moved to the Dalles. So it was pretty pretty big move, dude. You're going from like a population of like 200 to 14,000.
Yeah.
It was a big bump.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, I've had the same conversation with Paul Taylor about going from Doofer to the Dalles. My parents almost bought a house in Doofer. I almost grew up there instead.
Thank God they didn't.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
My dad was telling me about it last time I was down in Bend hanging out with them. And, yeah, dude, that would have sucked. That would have sucked.
But then again, I mean, now I wouldn't mind living out there. You got Camp Baldwin right up the way. You got a direct shot to Mount Hood.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's great for established people who have careers that they can just travel to it. But, dude, for kids, man, can you imagine being a kid growing up in Doofer?
It's
Fuck that.
You know, I watched your podcast with your dad, and he was mentioning growing up in a population like 300, no friends. You know what I mean? Like the only thing he had was his brother's friends, and so dude, that'd be tough, man. I wonder how that would wire you as an adult. You know, as far as like being socially apt or whatever you want to call it. You know, it might mess with that a little bit, but I couldn't imagine.
Well, yeah, and then on the other side of the spectrum is like if you grow up in an apartment building in New York City, like.
No thanks.
No, dude.
No thanks.
I'm not into that either.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about having a backyard. I tried to explain this to my kids because they don't have any reference other than what they're doing right now, and they have this place, and then they also have the house that they live at with their mom, and that street where we bought this house in 2012. It's in a cul-de-sac. It's a great little neighborhood, but there's no kids around. It's just a bunch of retired old folks. So they can't just go out and go play or whatever. The street that I grew up on, there were kids in every single house.
Dude, you had the Tegans, the Nicholsons, the Denny's, the whole,
Dude, it was awesome.
That was the spot up there.
I didn't realize how cool that was until I had kids and we lived in a neighborhood that sucked, you know?
Yeah.
It's a safe neighborhood, but they don't have that opportunity. Man, I remember when we were kids, I'd just be like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with Ervin. Is that cool? And they'd be like, yeah. They just take me, drop me off at your house, and we just go walking around doing whatever we wanted. I'd be terrified if my kids went to do that now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's way different.
It is. It really is. But you know, who knows? Maybe it's not different. Maybe we just see it different. You know.
True.
Because you know, my daughter's 16 now. 16.
She got a driver's license?
Insane. She has a driver's license. She just was rewarded a scholarship through Distinguished Young Women.
That's cool.
Which is a program for juniors in high school. And so I'm super proud of her, man. Like if you know, I didn't do anything right raising her. You know what I mean? I was in and out, and you know, she was I was a summer dad. I'd get her in the summers, and that's pretty much it, man. And to be blessed for her to come move with me when she was 12 was by far, but the individual that she's grown into is just incredible, man. It's nothing like I was.
Yeah.
And she's you know, she has a job. She has a boyfriend that I admire, you know, and we get along really well, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and she does the next right thing, which is crazy to me, because that's not the individual that I was. And that's not the individual that I raised her to be, because I just was incapable. You know, I was incapable of being I was a caring, loving father, but I was incapable of expressing that in the right way and grow and raising her in that, you know, in what she really deserved. So, you know, once I got sober in 2014, it allowed me to change who I was. It allowed me to develop a relationship with her that was healthy in sorts, you know, and so I think her seeing me under the influence and kind of what my life led up to was beneficial to her, because she didn't want to be that way, you know.
Yeah, and dude, you should give yourself more credit.
I do.
You should.
I'm not glum about it or anything like that. Like, I've always had a tremendous amount of love for her. I just
well, and you're fucking honest about it, dude. in my opinion, that is the hardest thing to overcome in the human experience, is people who are unwilling to admit that they made mistakes, and that they recognize those mistakes, and that are willing to change going forward. And so to me, that's what it sounds like you're saying. Like
Totally.
you did some stuff that you weren't proud of or happy with. You recognize that, and you're going forward. Most people can't do that.
Yeah. Well, the rule 101 is that in order for me to get healthy, I had to get honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I was incapable of doing that. Honesty was like not in my blood.
Yeah.
Liar, cheater, and thief. So coming to terms with that, and you nailed it on the head, man, is the key is being able to recognize that I'm not living morally sound, man. I'm doing things that are creating havoc for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole entire life, it's always been about me. It's centered in me. I don't see like going back to the Fargo story, testifying. I don't see his situation where he's put into this ordeal that he shouldn't even be in the first place. And in his eyes, is like, I gotta be honest, dude. That's what good people do. They're honest, right? And in my eyes, it's like, no, you ain't. You don't snitch on a brother type of deal. Yeah. And it's the line of thinking, man. It's the outlook and attitude on life that has changed for me, man. Is being able to for one, step back and think about what other people are going through and what maybe side that they see, mm-hmm. and then try to not fluff feathers, yeah. And be considerate of other people's feelings or emotions or situations, So, yeah, it's something I learned. It wasn't just a character trait that you know what I mean? Like maybe it is. But it wasn't utilized because I didn't know how to utilize it. I just knew how to lie. I just knew how to be dishonest with people and myself. You know what I mean? And I think I could get myself to believe anything, no matter how delusional or bullshit it was. Mm-hmm. I could get myself to believe that.
Yeah.
And that's where drugs and alcohol came in to destroy me, where I couldn't see it. I couldn't see that it was affecting my physique, my mental, my emotional, my spiritual. It was all bankrupt. Mm-hmm. And I just, the only thing that would help would be to take the medicine, man, that was just, coating the surface and not really digging deep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been
But do you feel like all the things that you did were necessary to get you to where you're at? Like, do you regret anything, or are you just like, this is what I did, and now I'm in a better spot?
I don't live in regret, man. I don't. I live in. I'm free of that, and I carried it for years, man. Like, a lot of the shit doesn't even come up. Like it's gone. But there's things that I've done to people that would somebody would be like that. They'd be like, full of regret and remorse. But I've worked through that to the point where I don't have to live with that. Like, I've let it go. Like, I've allowed it to disperse. Mm-hmm. And the way that I've done that is admitting, you know what I mean? Like trying to make an amends in a sense. And even if those people aren't reachable, I can do it on a daily basis, just by doing certain things like staying sober and doing the next right thing. And so I'm free of that, and that's a huge blessing.
How difficult is that? Me knowing your personality and you knowing mine, and like, we're both super impulsive and we just kind of do what we want to do. How has that changed you? Like, are you less impulsive now, or are you just better at being like, hey, shouldn't do that?
I think maturity has a little bit in that.
Yeah.
And really, I would say I'm impulsive in certain ways. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I'll find hobbies and stuff. Yeah. Motorcycles are one. Mm-hmm. But I'll impulsive buy shit like that. I'm sure I'm trying to fill a void.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's not in. I'm not impulsive in the sense that I'm killing myself anymore.
Yeah.
You know, with garbage.
Well, and being impulsive with a sound mind is probably better for you than...
Way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah. Yeah, I find I do... I mean, I'm impulsive all the time, but I do more impulsive shit when I'm drinking.
The way that I live now is I want to live to where the old me is thanking the young me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know that I put my body through a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, I try to gear towards living healthier. Like, you know, there's still unhealthy things that I do, but I incorporate healthiness, you know, and that's on all levels. That's taking care of my body with healthy foods. That's taking care of my mental attitude with doing the things that I do to stay sober and whatnot, mm-hmm. and make friends and enhance relationships. You know, it all across the board. It's different. It's a different way of life, if in a better sense. You know, before it didn't matter. It didn't matter what it was. You know, anything to make me feel different. And now I'm able to sit through the ups and the downs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's before it didn't matter. If I was happy, sad, mad, glad, booze or drugs would enhance that, for whatever which way. And I would never get to the root cause of anything. It was always throw on the mask. And now it's you know, and like you said, man, it's being able to recognize.
Yeah.
It's being able to recognize. That's a big piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be able to have some sort of self-reflection and understand that maybe you're hurting other people, or maybe you're hurting yourself, and a lot of it for me is just like being proud of who you are, you know?
Absolutely.
Like when we were younger, I didn't really think much about that. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and I think the older you get, and I think having kids probably influences this a lot, is that you don't want to be embarrassing to your kids. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You got these little people that you're taking care of that are the greatest thing you'll ever do, and you don't want to be an embarrassment to them. Because, I mean, we knew people growing up all throughout our lives, even now, who have parents that they just can't quite get it together. And, dude, that's the other thing, is that the older we get, you know, we're 36 now. We're like, the way I always look at it now is I'm halfway dead. I'm halfway there, man. So, one, I'm going to do the things that I want to do and not be embarrassed of them. But the other thing is that you need to understand that time is finite, and regardless of what you think is going to happen when it's all over, like, you get this time right now, and you should do the best that you can to be a good person, and to give love to the people that you love, you know, because, dude, there's nothing else. That's all you got.
Yeah.
You get maybe 80 years, and you get to try some things. You get to get some hobbies. You get to love the people you love, and then you fucking die. And maybe you get reincarnated. Maybe you go to heaven. Maybe you sit in some dirt underneath the ground. Like, who fucking knows?
Nobody fucking knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
No,
that's true. And really, a little piece of gold to that is something that I did was I was constantly tripping about the future, or I was regretting the past. And so if I'm in either one of those, I'm pissing all over today. You know what I'm saying? So really being able to learn how to live in the now, mm-hmm. is super important to enjoy life, in my opinion, man. So it's really the mashed potatoes, man, is being able to live in the moment and really take things as they are and enjoy the good and accept the bad.
Yeah.
You know, so life's a trip, dude. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna be miserable. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's there's too much good to live a shitty life, man.
Yeah.
You know, so But there's little tips and tricks, dude.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, because you can be on top and be feeling like everything's great, and then 20 minutes later, like something will just crush you, and it's learning to take those things and understand that something else is going to happen. It might be really terrible right now, but you know what it's like to feel the good, and the good will come eventually.
And if the bad wasn't there, the good wouldn't be good.
Exactly.
You know
that's
what
what you have to gauge against.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when the time's shit and you finally get out of that and you look back and you think, oh, damn, that was bad.
Yeah.
But you're like, thank goodness I'm here. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. That was one of the things that when we were younger, that you're in high school or whatever, or in your early 20s, and you think that when people get to a certain age, you have some sort of mindset of what that's going to be like. And dude, we're 36 years old, man. We're almost 40. And if you asked me at 18 when I thought about almost 40, I'd be like, that's an old ass man who should have everything figured out. And dude, I don't have everything figured out.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Dude, I know we have friends whose parents are getting divorced, and they're 70 years old. They've been married for 40 years. You thought they had it figured out. Nobody has it figured out.
Yeah.
Everything's always changing, and people are always changing, and you can't expect it to always stay the same. You got to be able to roll with it when it changes, because it will.
It's inevitable. Change is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
It's constant, man. Change is constant.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to adapt to it is important.
Yeah.
And being able to accept things as they are is important.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're a little fucking Scrooge running around fucking talking about the clamors of the world. But
so is it difficult for you like having this on the table? Is that something that you're just like, man, or are you so far past it right now that you're just like, I don't need that?
Oddly enough, I have zero reservation and zero lurking notion. It does not affect me anymore. I look at it as
that's cool.
As it's just I don't even see it as booze. I see it as something that's not for me.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple. And I know that in early recovery it was super difficult. Like I had to change the people, places, and things. Like the bars would give me anxiety, and and the thought of the party, and so it was tough, dude, in the beginning. But what had happened is I dove into recovery in such a manner that I looked at it as if my life depended on it, and it did, very much. But we get to a point where we don't want the people that love us hiding the bottle just because we're coming around. We look at it as a hot flame for me, and I'm not going to touch it. Mm-hmm. It's insane that I would ever be in a position, somebody that was dependent on alcohol, not only in the mental sense, but I was physically addicted. Like I would go into withdrawal without it. And to be able to look at it and it means absolutely nothing. Like there's nothing enticing or anything, man. I mean, it is what it is. It's a liquid that, people either abuse or they don't. They can manage. But for me, I don't work that way, man. Once I take a drink or a drug, the obsession returns, and then I succumb to the drink, man. And like I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned on here, but one's too many and 1,000's never enough.
Yeah. So
once I get one in me, 1,000's never enough. I can never get that. I can never satisfy. I constantly have to be under the spell. So, go into a bar doesn't affect me. I don't do it because that's not like really my flavor anymore.
Yeah.
But I can go to things like that without having some kind of urge to drink. It just isn't there. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been times in my recovery where the thought has crossed my mind. Yeah. Very much. The reminisce or the thinking, but it's short lived. You know what I mean? And really the recognizing that, okay, so if I do drink, what's going to happen? I'm probably going to be day drinking the next day. That's how quick it is for me. And it's no lie, man. And you know, my life has been very interesting, man. And probably a lot of this you don't know, or even many people for that matter. But when I was 20, I was using drugs and alcohol. You know, I was dabbling in meth and drinking, and essentially ruined the relationship between my daughter's mother and myself.
Mm.
All me, man. Like I was a liar, a cheat, and a thief. And she had finally had enough and left my ass. And I tried to commit suicide. And so I tried to hang myself, and she literally saved my life. She walked into the garage with my daughter in her arms and saw me hanging there, kicked off of a stool.
Damn, dude.
And yeah, dude. So those are some of the things that I think about of where alcohol takes me, where drugs take me, because I'll never forget the look on Sandy's face when she put my daughter on the cold concrete floor to run towards me, and my daughter crawling towards me completely flushed red and crying her eyes out because she was like less than a year old and she didn't know what the hell was going on. And essentially Sandy saved me.
Yeah.
And I wound up in a mental institution in Longview, Washington, and I sobered up, and I got sober for an entire year. I ended up moving back to the Dalles and getting into a recovery program, and I sobered up, man. I was 20 years old. I was feeling better. Life was getting better. I was talking to Sandy. We were patching up a relationship, and things were good. But yet a year later, after being sober, I decided that I was going to take a drink, and I was going to drink normally, the ideal that the average alcoholic has is that I can maintain, I can do it.
Yeah.
I've had enough of a break that I think that if I just drink once, and then I can drink normally after that. And what had happened was completely the opposite, man. I shared a 6-pack with a roommate of mine that was also in recovery, and within like a matter of 2 weeks, I was shooting methamphetamine, living in Portland again.
Yeah.
Homeless.
Yeah.
So what I know about myself is that it's a progressive illness.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if I stop. When I pick it back up, it's right where I left off, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be way worse.
Yeah.
And so that little bit of piece of information is extremely valuable for me, because what I do know about myself is that I just can't, man. I don't have the option, because once I drink or drug, the option is taken away and I'm back in it.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, I went back out, I shot meth, but then had like an epiphany where I saw myself years later as a junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And the obsession, I never really had like the obsession for meth like some people do. Like I used it and then met a group of low lifes that shot it for me. I didn't have all the, like I couldn't rig it up myself or whatnot. I just had somebody do it for me. And I got so goddamn high that I wasn't coming down. And there's people that cross the line, and I had crossed that line long by then, and there was no coming back. And I had this epiphany that, look, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna die a junkie. I'm gonna be. That's what I saw. Like that's what I envisioned, and so I stopped. But I continued to drink, and I continued to use other illicits. Ecstasy, yada yada. And that was 10 years. 10 years that I did that until, life was manageable and shit, and I had a good job. I graduated college, so that was a great reason for an alcoholic to stay an alcoholic, because I could function, right. I wasn't worthless in a sense. And so towards the end of my using and drinking, I had fallen about 8 months until I got sober. I had started messing with heroin. And that became the all too, man. It all of any kind of, so alcohol, what alcohol did to me, it made me really ill, right? In the sense that I always had heartburn. I was constantly sick. I was constantly like always like not, I just didn't feel good, you know, and
Yeah.
it was always just a shitty feeling. And then of course the hangover and everything else. And I found heroin, and what that did is it absolutely melted away any of that pain. And I had found like the magic, dude, I found the magic pill in a sense. And so I started using this with a girlfriend of mine, and her mom was a mule, so she would run back and forth and constantly give us the contraband, and we were free to use, and we used the shit out of it. And there was a time about 6 months into this, because at that time I quit drinking. Like I didn't even need to drink. Like
Yeah.
and that's kind of like how I managed to do what I did for so long, because I would use one substance, and then I would change to another, and then I would change to another, but it would constantly come back as this vicious cycle, right? And so I'd found the magic, and we had run out, and they had to go on a run, and I started to kick into withdrawal, and it was the most excruciating pain that I've ever felt, and I knew at that moment that I was fucked. Like I knew at that moment that I was completely dependent.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, physically, I was dependent on this substance, and in order for me to even feel normal, I had to use it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, my girlfriend finally walks in the door after being like 2 hours late, and I'm curled up in a fetal position over a air vent, and I'm crying, dude. I'm just, body aches. Like I feel like the muscles are busting out of my legs. The bones are busting out of my legs. I just felt miserable. And as soon as she came up and gave me the pin and the pipe, and I hit it, it was gone. And I knew, dude, I was like, I knew that I was fucked, man. I knew. And so what had happened was I was working for the railroad and there was a guy that I would party with every once in a while, and he had a drunken bout and tried to commit suicide drunk as fuck. They sent him to the hospital, and then they shipped him off to rehab. And he disappeared from work, and he comes back about a month later, and it was a completely different man. He came back, and he was full of life. And I, at the time I was using at work, you know what I mean? Like I was and I saw this, and we conversed a little bit, and he's like, yeah, man, like I just I feel so much better, man. I can live, and he quit drinking, and I believe he's still sober to this day. But to me, it was it was an influence. It was like a little spark of hope that, shit, dude, if it could happen, because he was a fucking knockout, dead out drunk. You know what I mean? Like he'd come to work smelling like booze, just running out of his pores. And if it could happen for him, maybe it could happen for me. I didn't know, but I was full of fear. Like I didn't know what to do, because for one, I had a cat and I didn't want to leave him behind. You know what I mean? I had a job that I didn't want to lose.
It's
I had
a cat.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just all these senseless fears that absolutely consumed me, and it prevented me from reaching out for help. So what I ended up doing is I went to my dad, and I sat him down, and I said, look, Dad, I got to tell you, man, I in a very serious and sincere, I'm addicted to heroin, and I can't stop, and I'll never, my dad's, one of the pinnacle people in my life that are a piece of that story, of my story. And what I was kind of expecting was disappointment, or, something of that manner. And it was completely the opposite. It was nothing but love and support. And he was like, Shane, we're going to do this, man. We're going to get through this. And I can't tell you the tremendous amount of love that I felt. And that was a piece of me getting sober. Just simple words like that, a simple sit down. And so I made a decision to talk to my boss, and they pull in HR, the plant manager, the whole nine, and they're all sitting at this table, and I fess up to the same thing. And I was expecting the same kind of disapproval and disappointment, and it was exactly the opposite. They were like, we want you to get help. We'll give you this option. We'll give you medical leave until you can, you seek out a treatment and you get better and you come back and you give us clean piss and we have a job waiting for you. And I can't tell you how important that was. Like it was such a sigh of relief. And so October 31st on Halloween of 2014, I take my last hit of heroin and I check into the Paul Treatment Center in Portland. And just terrified, dude. They put me in a detox, and I'm sitting there just terrified. Like the withdrawal was already starting to set in.
Yeah.
And so the flu-like symptoms, except you times it by 100, dude, because it's just terrible. And I just remember hearing a bunch of commotion outside, because right across the street was a bar. And people were in costumes. They were having a good time, hooting and hollering. And I'm up here on this ledge of this window like, fuck, man, I just want to go.
Yeah.
And just, going through it, man. And, the nurse would come in and take my vitals and all that shit. And I remember just begging her for Suboxone. It prevents withdrawal.
Yeah.
Something to do with your opioid receptors or whatever. And she wouldn't let me have it, for whatever reason, and which is odd, because you would think they would just dish it out like nobody's business, but she wouldn't give it to me. And I think, looking back on it now, if she didn't do what she did, I'd probably still be a junkie, and you know what I'm saying, point blank, because what that does is it doesn't allow me to clean up.
Yeah.
It just, all it does is keep me in that thing, but I'm not high, and so it was a God thing, man. And so I remember going, and I'm throwing up and all this other shit. And I remember pacing back and forth, because I'm in this room by myself for 3 days, which is a long fucking time. No cigarette breaks.
You were in a room by yourself for 3 whole days.
3 whole days.
Yeah.
It was like fucking jail, dude. Like it was terrible. And so all the meanwhile with the flu, sick as fuck.
Yeah.
And I remember pacing back and forth, and on this bookcase there was a Narcotics Anonymous book, and I remember anytime I'd see it, I'd just it made me physically sick to look at it, because something inside me that looked back 10 years earlier to where I found a solution was there, and it was I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to go there, because I knew that I would have to face my biggest fear, which was me, and really look at myself and find truth. And I didn't want to see it, man. And so, I go through the motions, and I'll never forget this either. They gave me all these snacks and shit, Nutri-Grain bars, and I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. And so what I did is well, fuck, I'm gonna shove these in my pillow. And when I get out of here, I'm gonna take them up to the residential, and I'm gonna feast, man, and hook up friends that I meet and whatever. And so I get they're getting ready to release me from detox, and I get this letter in big bold print. It says, "Do not bring anything from detox to residential."
No motherfucking Nutri-Grain bars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I do it anyway. The liar, the cheat, and the thief that I am. I put it in a pillowcase, and I take it up with me. And it was when you go to residential, you meet it was 50 guys all in one building, one floor of the building, and you have 1 to 2 roommates. And I was lucky enough to get 2 roommates that turned out to be really good friends. And they didn't know, but we all had to ship off to go to the class. We go through classes and all this other stuff, which is very helpful. I'm not doing that to diss it at all. It was exactly what I needed at the time. But they go to take off, and I thought, well, I'm not gonna put these anywhere around me, because if they come search our room, because I know that they search them, I don't want them to find them on me, because I'll get in trouble. So I put them behind my roomie's dresser, between the wall and the dresser, and so it's stacked, dude. All these Nutri-Grain bars, and I take off. And later on in the day goes on, and I get back. Both my roomies are sitting in the room, and I notice that they're gone. I'm like, what? Dude, they fucking searched it. And so I tell my roomie this, and he's like, what? He's like, dude, that's my dresser. They're gonna blame it on me, and I already got 2 strikes. And I was like, no. And I didn't want him to get kicked out, right? So this was like a breakthrough moment for me. And I marched down this hall with my head down, and just contemplating, all right, I'm gonna get in trouble, but I need to face this. I don't want my roomie getting in trouble. And so I go up to the counter, and there's this melee counselor, and I said, look, man, all those Nutri-Grain bars and all that stuff that you guys found is mine. And the guy looks me dead in the face, and he says, dude, we didn't find any Nutri-Grain bars. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, bud. So my roomies robbed my ass is what I'm thinking. And so here I am like ready to take the heat. And he's like, he's laughing. He's like, dude, we didn't take anything, man. And so like the next day they put this little stick, like this little note on my door, and it was like a kudos note. And he wrote on there, he wrote, thank you for your rigorous honesty, stud. And he signed his name. And I can't tell you how much that meant to me, because I was like being rigorously honest. I was willing to put myself on the line to take ownership of what I did, right? Yeah. And to do that, and for somebody to recognize it and say that rigorous honesty, it was huge for me, man. It was huge. And so, that was like a start of the change. And so, here it is, like, I think it was like my 5th night in treatment, and I'm still going through the withdrawals. That shit was still going on. I was just not in detox. And I just remember, dude, like as plain as day, man, like, so the night before I woke up, and in the middle of the night, I slept for like 20 minutes maybe, because I was so restless, so irritable, so discontent. And I had marched down the hall because like everything in me said run. Like, I just run, just leave, go find a dope dealer somewhere and go get high. Yeah. And so and I'm just crawling out of my skin, and I go up to this gal, and she was a nighttime counselor, and I just tell her what I'm going through. I'm like, fuck, dude, I can't do this. Like I have to leave. And she's like, just sit down, right? Just sit down with us. And she grabs 2 other people. And there was one other guy that was one of the patients, one of the rehab patients. And he was out there while I come out there, and we all sit in a circle, and they start sharing like their stories. And it was fucking magic, dude, because all of that craziness, all of the insanity for that brief moment in time was gone. Like the pain and everything, the upset stomach, the muscle aches, like it was gone, because what these people were doing was sharing their experience, strength, and hope. And it totally, it was like medicine, dude. And so I like felt better, and I'm like, thank you guys for doing this, man. And I went and took a shower and tried to sleep, maybe got like 20 minutes. But the next day I still feel like shit, and nighttime comes, and I'm just, dude, like the same thing. It came back. Like I'm feeling awful. And I go to the counselor, and I said, hey, there's a NA book in my detox room. Would you be willing to get that for me? And she said, let me see what I can do. And she got me this book. And it's a book I've never opened before. I was used to the other version of NA, which is, but anyways, I open this thing and I start reading it. And what I come to realize is all the insanity that I've lived my entire life was not just me. Like other people experienced this hell, and it was like, I could immediately relate. It was like language that I spoke. It was like
you wrote it,
like somebody that knew me wrote it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was my language. And I remember just absolutely so, I at that moment I surrendered like I've never surrendered in my life, to the point where like something had come over me. And I think of it as a God experience. Years later, I kind of, the scientific me like kind of wants to look back on it and say, well, maybe like I was hyperventilating and I had like this extraordinary experience. But what I felt was like this numbness come over me that is like unexplainable. Nothing any drug could ever do. And basically what I'm doing is I'm looking up into the universe and saying, fucking God help me. And if the universe didn't open up and put its grace and love on me, I don't know what did. But like at that moment, all of this stuff that I had gone through, all of the pain, all of the torture, all of the guilt, all of this stuff was washed out of me from my head to my toes. And it literally, like in a like a vibration type of scenario where like it, dude, it's wild. It's wild. I can't really like truly explain what the hell was going on. But what I do know is that from that moment on, I knew that there was some type of God that was real, and I knew that there was hope for me, and I felt better. You know, all of that pain, all of the withdrawal, all of those was gone, was completely gone. You know, and so I wake up the next day and I'm just fucking the old butterfly Ervin, you know, just floating around, dude, like high on life, like things are gonna get better, you know, and at the same time of being that way, like with that kind of attitude, it was infectious. So like the people around me and the roommates were like getting happier and like yeah, like this is, you know, and so it just became like this brotherhood in there, you know, that was pretty special, man. And so I did the legwork through treatment. I was in there for like 25 days or something like that. And I get out and I just fucking hit the floor running, dude. I took every measure. Basically, like this was the best suggestion that I've ever taken in my life. And basically what I had to do was change one thing, right? And that was everything. I had to change everything. The people, the places, the things, the relationships. Like I had to cut the ties with the ex-girl or with the girlfriend. I had to change everything. I had to change the people I surrounded myself with. And that's exactly what I did. And I started getting into this fellowship type of deal that just changed the game, dude. You know, it changed the game for me. And the biggest magic about it all is not only that it saved me and my family and you know and made me able to create a healthy relationship with my daughter and other people, but it also helps people at the same time. You know.
Yeah, dude, that's a powerful story. I mean, that is helpful to anyone going through what you went through or trying to make a change or do anything that's beneficial to their life.
Yeah. It's a terrible place to be, man.
Yeah.
And so when I see, you know, homeless or people that are not enough, or even people that, you know, come around and are not enough, that are looking for help but they can't get it, my heart goes out to them.
Yeah.
Because I understand, man. I understand.
Yeah, dude, because you reach a point you can't control it.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people understand that. That's all you need. That's all you want. And
yeah. It supersedes everything.
Yeah.
Everything. That, you know, people like talk in judgment, like how could you abandon your kid or you know, give up what you had, or and the simple answer is that, you know, if they had a choice, they would have picked the family. You know what I mean? But the drug is so powerful and such a mental twister that those things like the compassion and the empathy and the being a father don't exist. They don't exist.
Yeah.
What exists is your constant need and want for the fix, you know. So it's sad. It's really sad, you know, because in a sense the kids and the family, they lose somebody they love and they literally watch them die.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And so it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, like I look at like my life today and think about how truly lucky I am, because it's a very select few that actually get away from it and don't go back to it.
Yeah.
You know, I'll never be cured. It's just what it is, and I accept that fully. And I know that I have to participate in recovery in order to maintain sobriety, right? And so like that inventory we were talking about earlier, where I have to look at my inventory. Did I hurt anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Did I affect others? I have to do that on a regular. And if I'm wrong, I have to admit it promptly and like take care of the situation. I'm not a religious buff by any means, but I definitely believe in something way bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And there's some magic out there, you know, and everybody deserves a piece of that pie. So I continually seek it through my own channel with, you know, prayer and meditation, dude, is what it comes down to. And it, you know, I'm not praying to Jesus or Buddha or any of this stuff. It's a personal relationship with the God of my understanding. I when I was, what were we, like 15 when Kyle Christensen killed himself.
I forgot about that till you just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he him and I got baptized. We were in like a youth group in our young, like 12 years old, and I remember my ideology of God was tarnished when he killed himself, because the whole idea was like, people would say that if you kill yourself, you're automatically signing up for hell. And I refused to believe that, because I know what he was going through. I talked to him the night before he killed himself, and he was addicted to methamphetamine, and there was no turning back, dude. Like, and I understand the pain that he was going through, but in my eyes, like I kind of, like I couldn't believe that people that believe in a God like that exists, because that's bullshit. He was living hell on earth, and if anything, he's resting in eternity and universe and love now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of little things that get tied up in religion that shouldn't exist. You ultimately have to be at peace with yourself. Right?
Totally.
That's the ultimate. No one knows what's going to happen. All you get is the years you get here, and you just got to find a way to be at peace with yourself. And it sounds like you did that, dude.
Dude,
that's crazy, man.
It's a daily reprieve, though.
That is crazy.
It's a daily reprieve, man. Like I cannot boast or any of that shit, because the fact is that I'll always be an addict. I'll always be an alcoholic. If I decide to take a drink or a drug, it's game over for me, man.
Yeah.
And I thank God that I know that about myself. But the biggest magic, man, is some of the experiences that I have in sobriety is just better than any drug could ever give me.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. The relationships with some of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life that I can be friends with today, and we have a damn good time, and we're always laughing and loving and playing, man, and the support, and it's just, dude, it's something that I never envisioned being possible, because of the way that we grew up, of the way that my ideology and my outlook on life. And so this is the cool thing, right? I didn't have to do much work, because all the people that I hung out with were in it for them. You know what I mean? That the true friendships didn't exist. And so when I got sober and people got the word out that I was getting sober, those supposed friends just magically disappeared.
Yeah.
And so it was super grateful. The real friends that hung around, that they would hang out with me and not drink and shit, even though they drank all the time, was like real, like that's what true friendship is, man. Like these guys are willing to put their neck out for me, and they don't have to. And so you really like find out who's real and who's not.
Yeah.
And then of course, like the people that you meet in recovery is your new family, your friends and family. And I couldn't be more grateful. I couldn't. So, and they taught me how to live. They taught me how to be a parent. I've learned how to be a man, out of something as simple as one person talking to another, like you and I, and sharing their experience, strength, and hope.
Mm-hmm.
God, if I didn't have that experience that I did, of all the garbage and the dirt and the mayhem and the ruckus, then I wouldn't be where I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something would have happened along the way where I would probably be drinking normally, but not having the quality of life that I have today.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dude, I cannot think of a better way to end it. I was not expecting that. That was really cool. So,
right on, brother.
I'm glad that you shared that. For my first time hearing it, and everybody else's. So, dude, that's really cool.
Heck yeah.
All right, man.